Hello there. My name is Mickey Wright, and I'm a salon pricing strategist with beautysuperstars.com, and I empower hairstylists to charge what they're worth. I'm your host for today, and I welcome you to Beauty Superstars Talk, which is your backstage pass to experts in beauty. So thanks so much for joining us. And as we sit here, we are literally days away from one of the most anticipated movie premieres of the year. It's the life story of the one and only Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. So, in case you've been hiding under a rock and haven't heard, it's called Respect. And the release has been pushed back numerous times due to COVID and the theaters closing so that it could be released exclusively on the big screen. So, it really is hard to believe that it's almost 3 years to the day that the Queen of Soul passed away. And I was really thinking that was like 2 years. So I was like, goodness, this time flies. But prior to her death, she actually handpicked Grammy, Emmy, and Oscar Award winner Jennifer Hudson to portray her in the motion picture that would actually tell her life story. So today I am excited to meet with the person who's responsible for capturing the fabulousness of the hair of that era and actually helps tell the story of Aretha Franklin's life and her stellar career. So I'm here today with two-time Emmy Award-winning hairstylist Lawrence Davis. He's the one who's responsible for J Hud's stunning styles that we will soon all see on the big screen. So before Lawrence takes us behind the scenes for this movie and for more of his just incredible career, let me tell you a little bit about Beauty Superstars Talk. Each and every week, I have the privilege to interview Black beauty bosses who are doing amazing things in the beauty industry. We give a voice to their stories and celebrate their excellence while they drop nuggets to help all of us become better beauty pros and better entrepreneurs. So more than a podcast, this is really a movement to encourage Black excellence, entrepreneurship, to preserve our history, and to bring healing to our industry. So I want to thank our sponsor, which is the Black Beauty Expo, and it's the hottest show for Black creative entrepreneurs in the hair, fashion, photography, modeling, and makeup industry. Their next show is Sunday, October 10th. It's in Richmond, Virginia. So be sure to follow them at theblackbeautyexpo.com or on Instagram at Black Beauty Expo. And you can keep up with them there for the latest news, for the upcoming shows, and for special vendor packages. And in addition, it's like I'm excited to announce that I'm actually the global education director for the Black Beauty Expo. So if you are interested in educating, please reach out to me. And if you are here for the first time, welcome. If you are joining us again, welcome back. And we usually have a monthly series, and it's called, this month, the series is called Double Trouble. So all of my guests over this next month or so are known for both their cutting and their coloring skills. And mastering either of them is really no small feat for anybody who's been down that path. And so we'll actually sit down, break down what it takes to excel in both those areas. And of course, Lawrence definitely fits the bill. So let me start by sharing his bio, and then we're going to jump right into his story and what it's like to work in film and television. And of course, the Respect movie. So Lawrence Davis is an Emmy-winning fashion and entertainment hairstylist whose career is one of considerable accomplishment. His technical skill and eye for texture and detail, for which he has achieved widespread recognition, have firmly established his reputation as an industry leader. His talent and expertise can be seen in various award-winning films, television shows, editorial pieces, ad campaigns, and on the red carpet. Lawrence's most recent roles include serving as the hair department head on the upcoming Aretha Franklin biopic Respect, Amazon's limited series Underground Railroad, as well as HBO's critically acclaimed limited series Watchmen. Other recent film credits for Lawrence include The Frontrunner, starring Hugh Jackman and J.K. Simmons, Mudbound, for which was nominated for 4 Oscars and earned Lawrence a Hair and Makeup Stylist Guild Award nomination, and Best Picture winner Green Book, for which Lawrence served as the personal hairstylist to Mahershala Ali. After Mahershala was in Lawrence's chair again for his leading role in the last year's limited series True Detective, Lawrence secured a 4th Emmy nomination for his outstanding hair design. In 2017, he took home a Primetime Emmy for his work on Hairspray Live for outstanding hairstyling for a special. Additionally, Lawrence holds a Daytime Emmy for Outstanding Hairstyling for daytime television from his work on The Tyra Banks Show. Other top TV shows he styled for include Bessie, which Lawrence was also Emmy nominated for, America's Top Model, America's Got Talent, So You Think You Can Dance. Some of the most notable beauties in fashion and entertainment, such as Jennifer Hudson and Tyra Banks, rely on Lawrence to style their recognizable tresses. He has achieved national press exposure in several major magazines, including Elle, Style, Glamour, People, and Essence. Lawrence has also had the pleasure of working with photographers and directors such as Barry Jenkins, Giuliano Beccor, Dee Reeses, Derek Blanks, and Andrew McPherson. Answering to the demand of the entertainment industry has given Lawrence myriad opportunities to travel the globe and meet some of the most reputable talents in the industry. Hailing from Baltimore, Lawrence hit the entertainment scene in July of 2001 and hit it hard. After styling hair for 11 years in his hometown, he sold it all, moved to California, and never looked back. Making people look and feel beautiful is what makes Lawrence feel good and what he loves. So, wow. We're definitely honored to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, it's like, well, you
Appreciate
have had such a stellar career. I think a really super full week this week with the premiere earlier in the week of the movie Respect. And so
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
super excited to kind of get into that. But I always love to start with, like, how did you get into the beauty industry in the first place?
You know, I basically started when I was in high school. My mom had 7 brothers, and my mother would cut their hair. So growing up, my mom would cut my hair as well, and I kind of started doing it myself when she got busy, and I literally started off barbering.
Okay.
And I thought one day, I think I can take this a little further. So I started doing other clients as well as my sister and people in the neighborhood, and that's how it started.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. That's a cool way. And we should mention
Yeah.
it's like you're actually on set right now. I think we're hearing a little
Yes.
background noise. So you're in a trailer.
Yeah, someone came in and left out. But yeah, I'm in Boston right now doing a Netflix movie with Halle Berry. I think you can see her picture up there on the wall. Right
Oh, okay. Wow. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so
Be
we're
on the
working on that.
lookout for that.
I've
Yeah.
been here since May working on that.
Wow. Wow. So that's one of the things it's like that we want to know is like, that whole life is a whole different lifestyle. It's like my background's from the styling aspect, being in the salon, being an educator, so
Hmm.
traveling that way. But the whole world of film and television is very different. And so how did
Yeah.
you actually go from, you styled hair, cut hair, went into styling, had your salon and everything in Baltimore. How did you get into film and television?
You know what? I was inspired one day. I'll tell you exactly how this happened. I was always thinking about it, definitely, and wondering how to get into it. And I started asking people and reading magazines and things like that, looking for, I would look in a magazine and go, well, who did this? And I realized that in magazines, in the fold of the page, the very fold of the page were the credits for what we did. So there was never, ever a visible place in the back or the front of the book because it was in the fold of the book. So I would look and I actually would see these little names written in the fold of the book. And if you look even further, it had the agency that represented these people. So that's when I realized, oh, the person that does hair has an agent that represents them and gets them these jobs. So when I found that out, I started looking into agencies and realized that there were lots of agencies that represented hair, makeup, and costume people, and fashion stylists. So when I lived in Baltimore, I got myself together and I started going to New York, and I started looking up photographers to do test shoots with to help build my, at that time, portfolio. So after going back and forth between New York and Baltimore and doing photo shoots with photographers and building my book, I started hitting up agencies that represented hair people. So I think the first agency that I signed with was Ken Barboza out of New York City. And Ken did a lot of people for Essence magazine and a lot of different other Black publications. And he took me on and started representing me. And after doing the editorial world for a while, I thought, and I was obsessed with Hollywood and television and wondering how to break into that. And so one day, after sitting in my chair in the salon, I went to the store for lunch. And while getting lunch, I saw an Essence magazine. And that magazine was April issue of Essence 2001.
Okay.
And they featured a story on Halle Berry and her hairstylist at the time. Halle had that really beautiful short haircut that she rocked. And there was a story about Nico, who was at that time her hairstylist. I rushed back to the salon. I opened up that magazine and I read that story, and it was so good. It just inspired me, and it gave me the ambition to at least fly out to LA and just check it out for a few days. And so I remember that being the April issue, which comes out the month before. So it was March that I read the issue. It was May, Memorial Day weekend, that I flew to LA. And there was nothing going on. It was pretty quiet. You know, it was a holiday weekend, but I just had to see for myself what it was going to be like. So I went out there, drove around the weekend, and at that time, there was Tracy Johnson was on the scene, and Tracy Johnson was known for doing near long, and at that time, a lot of the girls who rocked really short haircuts, she was the girl to go to. So I remember seeing her salon on Melrose and driving by and just taking it all in. And I said, okay, I'm going to see what I can do about moving out here. So a friend of a friend I met in LA had an apartment, said, hey, if you're interested in moving, my friend has an apartment. I was like, yeah, okay. I was really thinking, this is weird, but okay. I asked for it. I think I'm going to get it. And interesting enough, I went to church with that friend of a friend the next day, and I met Tracy Johnson at church.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I was just kind of eyeballing your salon yesterday, and here you are in front of me. So in conversation with her, she said, if you're interested, I have a chair available, and you're welcome to work here. And I'm like, this is not happening. This is really not happening. So I made up my mind at that time. I said, you know what, this is an opportunity. I think I'm gonna go for it. So I remember flying back to Maryland, and I remember going back to work and telling my clients, I think I'm gonna move to LA. And those clients were like, yeah, right, sure you are. So I said, no, I really am. They were like, okay, well, whatever. And I remember going to the calendar in my salon, and I wrote on the calendar July 29th, and I crossed it off. And I said, if I don't go by then, I'm not going to go. So I started gathering my thoughts and said, if you go, the worst thing you can do is end up in the salon, and that's not a bad thing because you're surrounded by what you want to be a part of. So I remember getting myself together. I sold my salon, I sold everything, and even my car, and I headed to LA. Like, my mom was like, well, do what you want to do. As long as you're happy, we're happy. So my salon had not sold by the date that I crossed off. So I remember leaving my mom in charge of my closing because I knew in my head that if I did not go to LA on that particular day and time, I was not going to go. So I remember flying out there, and at the time I had a huge desktop computer, and you were able to put that in a box and put it under the plane at the time. And so I remember standing outside the airport with my computer and my luggage, and I got this feeling like, oh my God, what did I just do? What did I just do? I don't know anybody out here, and I'm out here in LA on my own. So that apartment that I was promised, I got that apartment, and that job I was promised, I got that job. But the problem was I had no clients in LA. Okay. I had no clients at all. So I remember being in the salon one day and me sitting in the chair because I had no clients, and the phone rang, and for some reason the receptionist was at her desk, and I answered the phone. So there was a young lady on the phone who was calling to make an appointment, and she gave me a Maryland number. And at that time, I recognized the area code, and I said, oh, I'm from Maryland. And I gave her my name and all that. We had a brief conversation. I hung up the phone. A few minutes later, the phone rang again. There was a young lady on the phone. She asked to speak to me, and she was one of my classmates from hair school in Baltimore. She was coming out to LA, and that was someone calling for her just to make an appointment for her with Tracy Johnson. She's like, this is Leah Watts from hair school. I'm coming to LA to take Nico's class. Nico, mind you, was Halle Berry's hairstylist at the time. And I was like, really? So she said, yeah. I was calling Tracy's salon to see if I could get my hair done while I'm out there taking Nico's class. So I said, well, why don't you stay with me when you come and I'll drop you off at his class. So she wound up staying at my place with me. And Tracy, at the time, was so booked up that she couldn't even see her, with the appointment, and neither could Nico. But anyway, I remember dropping her off at the class that morning, and I saw Nico across the parking lot and just waved at him and dropped her off and kept going, because I was like, this guy has no time for me. He's huge. And the second day I dropped her off, he waved, I waved. He said, you coming in to take the class? I was like, oh no, I can't take your class. It's $500 a day. And at the time, I'm just moving here. I don't have a client. I don't have income. So I was like, no, man, I'm not going to take your class. He's like, no, come on in, sit in the back. So I was like, oh, okay. So I sat in the back of the class, and, it was this almost full circle thing where I read this article about this guy and never really sought him out, but I just thought, oh, this is cool. I'm sitting in the class that this guy was just reading about, who's responsible for Halle's beautiful short hair. So I was really happy about that. So after the class, she said to him, can we come over to your salon just to see it and, look around? And he was like, sure, come over. I think this was a Monday. Come over Tuesday. I have some time in the afternoon to sit and talk with you. And I'm like really excited. And I'm thinking Pasadena was like so far, but it was just down the freeway, as if I was going to a local county. I just didn't know my way around LA. And so we got to his salon. It was a beautiful, very small 3-chair salon on a beautiful tree-covered street that you would drive by and never notice. But he had celebrity clients, and he was booked for months and months in advance. So I was like, wow, how does this even happen? So I remember sitting in the salon, and they were doing most of the talking, and I was just kind of sitting back and watching and listening. And so I noticed that the middle chair was empty. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, there's nobody in this middle chair, And I thought, So we were leaving, and she said, why don't you ask him if you can come over and watch him work? And I was like, I was pretty shy, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, yeah, okay. I asked him. He's like, sure, whenever you want to come over, watch me work, and we'll talk or whatever. And so we left like that. And so I remember maybe a week later, calling him up, and he's like, yeah, come on over. So I go over and I watch him work, and he's showing me his technique and his skill. And that middle chair was still empty. He had a business partner who was another chair down from him. And they were just doing hair. I mean, beautiful hair every single day. And the salon was called Sessions. So basically, the client would pay for their session. So there was no overlapping. Your session was your session, whether you book it for 2 hours or 3 hours, you were the only one there. So I love that approach. And I remember during the midst of that, 9/11 happened. And so everything came to a screeching halt. I, was kind of like, what's going on? How am I going to, figure this out? Because nobody was coming to the salon. Just everything was standing still. Mm-hmm. So I remember when flights were opening up that I wanted to go home and check on my family. I just needed to be close to my family. So I remember flying from Los Angeles to Baltimore, and we stopped in Jersey. Mm-hmm. You could see the smoke from the World Trade Center, and it was just this eerie feeling. And I just needed to stay close to my family on the East Coast. So finally, when I got ready to, I flew back to Los Angeles. And I remember while I was home, I said, I can't go back to Tracy's salon because this is eating up my money, because I was renting a chair and had no clients. Mm-hmm. So I went back to LA, and I, gathered my things, and I found a job at a salon in Beverly Hills, which was a commission salon, and I was able to sustain and work and get a few clients that way. But I remember still traveling back and forth over to see Nico through the week just to watch him work. Mm-hmm. One day I get a call from his receptionist, and she's like, Nico wants to talk with you. Can you come over? And I was like, sure, I can come over. And I had to take the bus because my car broke down. It was just, those things that come back to me, because it's a part of my struggle. So I remember it. I remember taking the bus over to Pasadena to see Nico, and Nico said, how'd you like to come work here? And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you can have a middle chair. And I was like, this is crazy. It was literally almost full circle for me. So I remember getting there and working at his salon and just helping out. And all of a sudden, I had a clientele. I had a clientele out of nowhere because these guys were so busy that they were booked for months that clients were just sitting in my chair. And I'm like, God, this is good. The next thing I know, I'm on a photo shoot with Nico and Hallie. So this whole article that I read about a few months before getting there was full circle in my life. So it was truly a blessing. And then one of his clients was his agent. She started representing me. And I remember doing my first magazine cover because she booked me for a job through, for Newsweek magazine. It was a cover issue with Denzel Washington. And she called me and said, do you do barbering? I said, yes. She's like, I have a client that I want to send you to for a magazine cover. I didn't know it was Denzel until I got the call sheet. So I got the call sheet and I read it was Denzel and I was like, oh my God, I got to catch the bus to this photo shoot all the way across town. But anyway, I made it. And from that moment on, she started throwing jobs my way. And one of the spaces that I love to sit and dwell on was the TV show E! Entertainment. And I was just obsessed because it told you everything. It was, it was literally the platform for everything that went on in film and television. Everybody came through the studio and there was E! News Live and all that stuff. And I remember booking a job through Nico's agent at the time. And it was Essence Magazine photo shoot with Aisha Tyler. And she was a personality at E! At the time. And I met a makeup artist at E! Entertainment. At the Essence shoot who worked at E! Entertainment. And I asked her, how do I come on board there? And she said, well, I can give your name to somebody and, see if they'll call you. And they did. They called. So another full circle. I'm watching E! News and I get a call to come work at E! News.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is crazy. But I realized in all of that you have to surround yourself by what you want to be a part of. And me taking that leap out to California and being surrounded by the things that I wanted to be a part of was one of the best things I could have done.
Yeah.
So after getting into E! News, everybody in the world came through E! News. Everybody who was doing something in television came through E! News and all the other news shows that E! had. And Style Network and E! Network were under the same roof. And that's how I met Niecy Nash. When she was doing the show Clean House, she requested an African-American stylist that was on staff there because that's what she needed. And I tell you, the doors just started opening from there. I met Tyra through Nico. And right now today, I just, I talk about Nico because he was such a blessing in my life. He gave me opportunities that I would have never, ever had. And he's one of my mentors. And I really, really love that he was able to do that for me.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my journey into Hollywood. And like I said, the doors started opening from that point on.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
Listening to that is like, I have chills, And
I still have that issue. I still have that issue with Essence Magazine.
What do you mean? Oh, with Nico and Halle Berry. Yeah, yes. I guess you do.
I still have it. Yeah, so it's one of those situations where I heard this thing and this thing spoke to me. You got to go. You got to go where it is. You got to go now. And this urgency to get there. Like I said, if I had not gone past that date I crossed off on the calendar, I wouldn't have gone. Right. I would not have gone. So I'm grateful that I heard the voice and I listened and I made it across the country to Los Angeles at the time. It was a hard journey, but it was so worth it.
Yeah, yeah. There's like so much serendipity in your story, and and even you mentioned July 29th being that day or what have you.
Yeah, absolutely. I specifically remember the dates and everything that went on because they were so impactful in my life.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually my parents' anniversary, and it's like
wow.
My dad passed away, but it would have been their 60th anniversary just this past July.
Wow.
So it's like, wow, hearing that,
gotcha.
That date.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like the listening and the obedience and all of that transpired in, in your experience, was there something you feel like that made that possible? Like you heard it first, but then, we hear things a lot of times and we're like,
Yeah. And not only that, I want to back up a little bit. I remember being at church, because I went to church in Baltimore, and I remember being at church and getting prophesied to. And there were several people on different occasions who did not know me, and a lot of them were from out of town, who would come and visit my church and called me out on it. Told me what I was going to be doing, not necessarily where I was going to be doing, but what I was going to be surrounded by. And I thought, wow, I got to go to this so this can happen. It's going to pull me. It's going to probably pull me away from all of this, but it's what I'm supposed to do. And everything that they said to me has and is happening.
Wow.
Every word.
Yeah, that's powerful. Very, very, very powerful. And I know there's someone watching right now that is, like on the fence. Like, I want to make this move, or I want to move into this next phase of my life. And they're like hesitating.
Absolutely.
So
you got to do it. You can get a prophetic word, or you can get a word, but you also have to have the faith to start stepping out in it. Sometimes you get the nudge and the push. You got to step forward. Don't always think it's going to knock at your door. You got to go out to that door and look for it.
Right. And like you say, just being open to that next door opening and the next thing, and all the turn of
Absolutely.
Events. Yeah.
You're going to go through some uncomfortable situations, but it's a part of the journey.
Right.
It's definitely part of the journey. And that's what I did. I went through some uncomfortable situations, just like my car breaking down and all that stuff when I'm in LA, but I knew I had to get on the bus and go.
Right.
I knew I had to get out there on the bus and pull that kit and go through the streets and make this happen,
Right.
So I specifically remember all of those things and meeting all those people through Nico and through other people. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure anyone seeing the cover that Denzel was on would not have imagined his hairstylist, having the bus and the, taking the kid and the whole shebang that happens behind the scenes.
It was definitely a journey.
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I think a lot of times, we definitely see, people on stage. We see people, during education and that type of thing. We see people, with film and television. And a lot of times, I think it's always interesting, because it's like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be a celebrity stylist, kind of because they want their name in lights. But a lot of times we don't know the people who are actually doing so much work, as far as, film, television, and working in those things. But it's interesting that we get to hear the story, like behind, like, okay, the lights are shining bright now, you're on the red carpet, you've got the image, but what came before that is the powerful part,
Yes.
So I definitely appreciate you sharing all of that with us. It's like, wow.
You're welcome.
That sounds like its own little mini series or its own movie.
It really is. It definitely is that, and it definitely could be, it definitely could be a book.
Right. I buy it. I'll be first in line. But let's, talk about the movie. So I guess start where you want to start, because I have so many different questions.
Respect. Wow. Now, Jennifer is a friend of mine, and I met Jennifer, of course, in LA years ago on an Essence magazine shoot, of all things. Essence has been great to me. So I met Jennifer on an Essence magazine shoot, and I wasn't styling her hair that day. I actually was doing Ruby D, the legendary Ruby D. I was doing her for the photo shoot. But this particular photo shoot was an issue of Essence that featured multiple Black women on this huge photo shoot. So I got to meet, not only did I get to meet other hairstylists and other clients as well. So I met Jennifer on that shoot, and I think that was 2006 or 7. I met Jennifer on that shoot. And she's been a client ever since. And I was with her, this through the journey before her albums, and right after the Oscars and all that stuff is when I came on board. And I knew that the whole Aretha story after we moved forward in a couple of years, the whole Aretha story was coming out, and I knew that Jennifer had been picked by Aretha to do it. And at that time, there wasn't a set date at all. There wasn't a set date. It was just in the air and started getting buzz. And I remember saying, oh, I really want to do that. I never really asked her about it because it was so kind of like hush hush. It's going to happen, when the studios, when it's all written, because it hadn't been totally written yet. She gave permission to the studios, but she hadn't told the story yet. So once everything was done and she was handpicked and got the part, I don't remember asking her about doing the movie. But ironically, when it all came down to it, I remember doing Jennifer in the past for photo shoots where I had to create a vintage look, and I need to plug my computer in.
Okay.
And I remember doing her for a lot of great vintage looks that we were doing photo shoots for. So I knew how she could change from her everyday look to a beautiful, vintage doll baby, just in the instance, because she would transform and she would get into character just through a photo shoot. And I remember just having these beautiful pictures of her and sending them to her. She's like, oh my God, I didn't know it looked like this. Just all these wonderful things. So she knew that I could definitely do those type of hairstyles. And I will go a little forward. Before the Aretha movie, we did Hairspray Live. And that was my second Emmy win, was for Hairspray Live. And Jennifer, I was her personal on that. So she knew what I was able to do. So when this all came about, I remember getting a call from the costume designer. And on most movies or television shows, the costume designers are the very first persons who are hired.
Okay.
And Clint Ramos, the amazing costume designer for Respect, called me and said, I got a referral to you from Mia, who actually just won the Oscar this past year, from Mia Neal for the Aretha Franklin movie. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. She said, you're in Atlanta. And I was like, this is ironic. I said, Jennifer's a good friend of mine, and I would love to do it. So moving forward, we met. I flew up to New York and met him and got to see firsthand these costumes that were just amazing, hanging up. And it was also my introduction into the Broadway world, because he's a Broadway costumer. And this was one of his, I think, first movies. So I get there and I see these beautiful costumes and these sketches everywhere. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And he said, I want you to meet the director, because she was coming in also. I want you to meet the director, Liesl. And we're going to basically pretty much talk about, this movie and talk about what we're looking for. So I got the job, and it all started right there. I flew back to Atlanta, and I was like, I need to get myself together and start on these wigs. So you dive into your research, you dive into your computer, and you try and find every picture of Aretha you possibly can find, from her childhood up to the present day, and pull all these references together, not only on the computer. I mean, not just Google, but you go through Pinterest, and you get other inspiration from other female singers at that time, and the Supremes, and just whoever was around. You just gather all of these looks, primarily Aretha's looks, but backup singers, what they look like at the time, your everyday people, what they look like at the time, your churchgoers at that time. You pull pictures, those all kind of references, high school yearbooks, everything, because you want people to look as authentic as possible for that era. And when we did the movie, we started with young Aretha, and that was the late 40s, the opening scene where she comes downstairs and she sings for her dad's dinner parties that he would host at night. And he would get out of bed just to have her sing for people. So she was 11 years old then. So I had to research what kids looked like then in, the late 40s. So it's not just, me concentrating on older Aretha. I had to concentrate on what the kid Aretha would have looked like at the time. So you're building these characters and you're researching all of this information, and before you know it, you have this major board in front of you that's full of references. Mm-hmm. So what I had to do was, I knew that I had to prepare a lot of those performance wigs ahead of time and put them on the shelf, because there's no way, as we're shooting the script, as we're shooting the movie, we're not shooting it in order, definitely not shooting it in order. So those wigs had to be ready and on the shelf before we even start the movie. So I got as many looks as I could get together based on the costumes and the performance looks. I got as many of those as I could get together, and I had them just waiting on the shelf. Just waiting on the shelf. And then there were custom wigs that had to be made, and I had to, look into that and get all that stuff done. But that was my saving grace, having all those wigs ready in advance. And I think we did about a good 12 to 15 wigs for Jennifer. And for the entire movie, I think there were about 85 to 95 wigs for the entire cast and the other background cast members.
Wow!
So there was a lot involved. And when you're telling a story, you want to be as authentic as possible. So I looked at some of her performance wigs, and I was just trying to figure out the structure of them. And I knew that that's got to be more than one wig that she has on her head. So I had multiple wigs that I had to sew together just to get the volume and the height on some of those performance wigs. And my main concern was the comfort of them on her while she was performing, and making sure things stayed in place. And everything worked out beautifully, because I think I was prepared to do it in my mind and physically. I put time into it because it was just that thing that I desired to do. So once we got, I say, started. Prior to that, I was on another project with Barry Jenkins, the Underground Railroad. And before we started Respect, I was on the Underground Railroad, and I remember getting the call for Respect, and I was like, there's no way I cannot do this movie. So I mustered up enough nerve to go talk to Barry, who is an amazing director. I said, Barry, Jennifer's a good friend of mine. She's doing Aretha Franklin. He said, go do it as long as you come back. As long as you come back when you're finished, go do it. So he was kind enough to say that, and that doesn't happen all the time. That doesn't happen all the time in production. They just go, if you're gone, you're gone. Replace yourself, and that's it. But I had a wonderful team in place on Underground Railroad. So everything was fine. And I went back and finished once I finished the movie. But this movie for me has been a labor of love, because I wanted to really, really tell the story and be authentic with it as possible. And I think that knowing the backstory and knowing what the meaning of the lyrics were, and knowing what she went through and what inspired her to write these songs, gave me a whole nother view of everything and a whole nother appreciation for her music and the words that came through, the messages that came through her music and the empowerment. So just knowing her backstory was powerful enough to give me the drive and the ambition to authentically tell the story through my work on Jennifer and some of the other characters. I also did Forrest Whitaker, and I also did Marlon for the movie. So I have my hands full.
Okay.
And they worked together. They worked together in a lot of scenes. So not only was I wigging Marlon, I was also wigging Forrest, and I was also wigging Jennifer, one at a time.
Okay.
and Titus, who played James Cleveland. So there was a lot of work. There was a lot of wig work involved in this movie, and I really had to be mindful that this has to tell the story, and it's a part of the storytelling. And I want these characters to come across as real as possible, and everything had to be, on point, and just make the story make people connect to the story, and make people recognizable in their characters. So it was a lot of work, and not only did we shoot it in Atlanta, we started in New York City. We came back to Atlanta. We shot most of it in Atlanta, and we finished in New York City. And I think that day it was about 10 degrees, 10 degrees outside. But we shot it, and it was wonderful. It was a labor of love. And what really made it special was we had Aretha Franklin's family was there. They were there on set a lot, and they were sitting in the producer's seats, and they were watching what was going on. So it was one of those things where you could just feel the spirit of Miss Franklin there, and you could see, you could feel the thumbs up. You could feel the permission given to tell this story, and the way that Liesl and Tracy wrote this. It was just a good overall representation of Miss Franklin and her legacy. And I also want to say that it was in the movie, the documentary that Aretha did, the gospel documentary, that's in the movie also, and that's where the movie ends. But I remember we were filming this particular scene, and Jennifer was singing Amazing Grace, and then we went into another song. But I remember Liesl, our director, saying, "Okay, cut." Jennifer did not stop singing. She kept singing. Oh. She said she couldn't stop. She said she could not stop singing. So that, excuse me, that just took us to another emotional place, because there was really, really church in that church, because she could not stop singing. So before you know it, hands were going up, praises were happening. It was a very, very beautiful moment. Should I say evening, because it went on for a while. Okay. But that right there was almost like the icing on the cake, because that's the final scene of the movie. That's the final scene of the movie. And for that to happen, that was a really special thing going on in the air, That was a really special spiritual movement that God used her and ministered through her to the people that was there. So it was really, really beautiful. Yeah. But it was a great project, and I'm honored to have been a part of it, because it's telling the story, and it's giving insight to her legacy and what she went through as an artist, as a woman, as a mother, as a grandmother. It's just telling everything that we didn't know, the struggles that she had. We didn't know the abuse. We didn't know a lot of stuff. We didn't know the inspiration behind the songs and the messages behind the songs until I got to read this script and this biography, and it just told so much that gives you that enlightens you and gives you a better understanding of her life and her legacy.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. I have been waiting to see this for so long, and it sounds
it's a beautiful.
Yeah. And I hope that they kept the film rolling while Jennifer couldn't stop singing, so it could be used somewhere.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I remember that day so well, because it was that memorable. We church full of people. Everybody's in costume and hair and makeup, but it was church. It was really church. She could not stop singing, and she kept going and kept going and kept going, and people were crying and weeping. The cast was crying, the cameraman, the grips, the lighting, everybody was just into it. It was a moment where everybody was just on one accord, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful taping.
Yeah. So, wow, that's incredible. So hopefully we'll get to see that somewhere someday, somehow.
Yeah, I hope that part comes out. I know it's definitely different in the movie, but it ends with that scene, and it was so much that those days were of taping that were so beautiful.
Yeah. And I know, like you were saying, there was like 85, 90 wigs for the whole production. It's like, and I know you can't do it all alone. So tell us about your
No, I have an amazing team. Mona Bowman was my key hairstylist, and she was responsible for just keeping me together. There were wigs all over our trailer. I mean, there were wigs every spot of the counter, everywhere, on the shelves. There were just wigs everywhere. So keeping up with the wigs alone was a task, but she was my right hand. And she also, I met her when I did True Detective in Arkansas, and I said, you have to come work with me. So she was very, very instrumental in doing a bunch of the hiring for our background artists. Our background hairstylists, who were amazing on this as well. There are so many people that we had to hire for those huge concert scenes, and I think there were like 1,000 people in the audience. And one thing people don't realize with the period movie, everybody has to be done. You can't be
Right.
in a 1950s movie and look like you're in 2020. So
Right.
in a period movie, every single person has to go through hair, makeup, and costumes,
Mm.
whether the viewer knows it or not. So there were days when we had to have 25 and 30 hairstylists that were on another location doing all these people, getting them ready for hours before we even started filming. You know, we would have
Mm.
people there five in the morning. We wouldn't start filming till 11 because they have to have time to go through hair and makeup.
Wow.
So Mona Bowman was very instrumental in helping me in this film. And there's no other person that I would have called on to be my key because she has the drive and ambition and the leadership skills to make it happen. She was responsible for a lot of the beautiful hairdos on her sisters and a lot of other
Mm.
characters in the movie as well. And I was honored to have Mary J. Blige, who I did also. Forgot about Mary, but Mary was another couple wigs that I had to do. So it was a very huge wig movie and a wig show that, you know, we had to dive into and make things happen. Sometimes overnight. Sometimes overnight. Yeah, because anytime you're filming, sometimes things get changed in the middle of filming. A script may be rewritten. Not a script, but a scene may be rewritten. And, oh, we added such and such to the scene, which actually happened because our director was in the movie. And I remember they said Lisa's going to play the part of the woman in the lobby talking to Jennifer as she gets in the elevator. And I'm looking at Lisa and I'm like, you have a head full of braids. So how are you going to transform into this 1950s woman, 60s woman? But I remember her coming into the trailer. It was late at night when we filmed that scene. And I had a few wigs sitting there. And I remember, God, how am I going to get all these braids under this wig? But I remember taking the wig and cutting the entire back of the wig out, and I put the wig on, glued it down, and I was able to do a really nice bouffant and fold it over in the back. You never knew braids were under there. But you know, it's those kind of things where you have to think outside of the box and you have to think quick. And those challenges are what makes me, and I'm sure it makes a lot of my other colleagues stronger in what they do, because when things come to you at the last minute, you have to be quick on your feet. You got to think about it and make it happen and know that the camera is waiting for you. Okay. So you can't fall under pressure. You got to make it happen. So I realized that movie made me a stronger hairstylist. It made me a stronger businessman. It made me a stronger person because there were things thrown at me that I had to pull a rabbit out of a hat sometimes. Okay. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much because it made me stronger. It made me so much stronger, and it made me quicker. And I thought, okay, don't tell them no. Say, we're going to make it happen. Don't ever say no. Just say, okay, we'll make it happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but it happened. Those are the things that I would like to say to people that, you know, are in the business who melt under pressure. Never let them see you sweat. Never tell them no. Just say, we'll make it happen. And that's what I had to tell myself a lot in this movie. Although I was prepared, you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to be added to the scene. And that's what happened. There were people added to scenes where I did not have a custom-made wig for them. I had to take a stock wig and do alterations and make it work, and it worked. And that's the part that really made me happy. There was stuff that I had to do at the last minute that worked beautifully. So it was a labor of love, and it's definitely a project that I will never ever forget because of the message in the movie, who the movie was about, who was in the movie, and what I had to do for it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just brilliant. You know, your advice is like, okay, we'll make it happen. You know.
Yeah, you have to.
Crazy,
yeah, and I think that me having, you know, almost 100 wigs sitting there ready to go helped us so much. And I had a team that just was wanting to be there. One thing about a project, whether it's a movie or TV show, that helps is having a cast and a staff who wants to be there, who wants to be a part of the project. I've been on the same things where people are like, I don't want to be here, you know, this and that. And I don't like that energy, of course, around me. But the best energy you can have is when you have a cast that comes in every morning, fresh out of the shower, fresh out of the bed, and trust you to fulfill what you do, to trust you to do what you need to do to help them get to that point where they can bring this character forth as authentic as possible and 100%. And the collaboration between me and my actress or me and my actor is there because we've discussed it ahead of time. Like, what do you want to look like? What's going to help you bring forth this character so that you can do your best performance? And we do these little conversations, and we tweak this and tweak that, and it's looking at this, and it's like, that's it. She's here, or he's here. This character has arrived. And I even go as far as scents, because I remember working with another actor, and there was a certain product that I used, and he was like, "Let me smell that." And I was like, "Here you are." He's like, "Let's use this every day. This is something that he would have used, and this character would have used." So I've learned that you have to take them through a certain rhythm every morning, because that helps them to fall into their character. Don't come bringing some other spray that you never used on them with a whole crazy scent.
Right.
It's little things like that, because not only is your actor in your chair, but you're the first person they see in the morning, and you set the tone. You set the tone for their day. It's a good morning, and it's on from there.
Right.
And it's a 12-hour, 18-hour day. You've been with them all day. They've been with you. You become family. So to knock them off of that rhythm can make them have a bad day. So I like to use certain products on my character, on my actor. There's certain scents that bother people, certain scents that don't bother people. You have to know when your actor is really, really struggling with their lines. If they're struggling and they're looking down and they're reading and they're reciting their lines while they're in your chair, don't have unnecessary conversation. Let them get into that character. You have to read the signs. You have to know when to pull back, do your job quietly, and let them have that time to study. So it's all about recognizing and connecting with your actor when they're doing a film or television show. That makes everything go smooth. I've had instances where I've had other people in the trailer talking, and I'm like, I need you guys to be quiet. She's doing this, or she's learning this, or she's reciting her lines, or two actors maybe, they may be rehearsing their lines while they're in the trailer. So you have to know when to pull back and let them have their time. So it's all about that relationship that you have with them, and the respect that they have for you doing your job, and the respect that you have for them doing their job. And it makes it all work, and it makes it a beautiful place to be. Everybody comes to Hair and Makeup just to hang out. People come just to hang out because, first of all, the trailer smells amazing because of all the beautiful scents, and we burn candles and all that. But I've had other people in other departments come to the Hair and Makeup trailer because it's just a cool place to hang out. And it is, and we want that to be spa-like for our clients and our actors. So when people come to the Hair and Makeup trailer, it's an unforgettable place because it's that really cool, relaxed place. And that's what I want it to be for my actors when I'm doing them, and when they're going through the process of getting ready and transforming from Jennifer to Aretha, or from Marlon to Ted, or from Forrest Whitaker to C.L. Franklin. It's a process, and you have to recognize and respect the process.
Yeah. It's like I love all of that, because I think a lot of times we don't pay attention enough to the details of things.
Yeah,
and those are
absolutely.
The things that, like you say, make it run smoother. Excuse me. And it sounds like your trailer becomes like the community or neighborhood salon, where people want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there are mornings when you have, there are huge scenes, dinner scenes, barbecue scenes, family scenes, where you have all of your actors in at one time. There may be 10 chairs in the trailer, and all 10 of them are full of actors. And it's a rhythm thing. You get them in, you get them out. Makeup is down that end. You're watching Makeup as she's doing his makeup. Get him out of that chair into that chair. It's timing. It's a rhythm. And when you have a well-oiled team, when you have a team that's there and they know how each other work, you can get all those people in and out, and they're shooting on time and not being held up for hair and makeup. Because it's all about having respect for the craft and getting them in and out on time.
Right. Absolutely.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. But the good thing is I have a respect for storytelling, and I've learned so much as a hairstylist in this industry not only about what I do, but I've learned so much about other stories and the scripts, because people don't realize I have to read a script just like my actor does.
Okay.
I have to read that script. I have to know that Aretha is going through this huge sweaty pour down because she's on stage. I have to be aware that I gotta mist her hair or mist her face, or I gotta be aware of a shower scene or something like that. So I need to know this script just like my actors know their lines. I need to know what scene is coming up tomorrow. I need to know if there's a concert scene tomorrow, that wig up there on that shelf has to be ready and down here on my station when she comes in the morning at 5 o'clock. I have to be and know all of that. So it's definitely a process, and people think you're just doing hair, but no, you're reading scripts, you're doing budgets, you're doing scheduling, and with COVID being present today, it's a whole nother layer onto production, because we have to hire people ahead of time, have them tested before they can even step foot on set. So it's a whole nother layer. So it's management skills. Not only is it hair, it's logistics, it's management, it's product knowledge, it's ordering products, it's ordering wigs, having custom wigs made, having measurements done, flying wigs FedEx overnight from this wig maker to that wig maker. It's a whole thing, and a lot of people don't realize it's not just standing behind a chair curling hair. No, it's so much more to it. As a department head, there's a lot of weight on your shoulders, and if things are not in order, you can really, really fall to the left or fall to the right if you don't have a good support system behind you. So far in advance, I get scripts months in advance or weeks in advance, and I have to go through these scripts and break these scripts down and know exactly when she's in the bed sleep or when she's driving the car, and if the window's going to be down, if the window's going to be up, what hairstyle works best for this, what hairstyle works best for that. All that stuff I have to know ahead of time before the camera even starts rolling. So I have to have 2 or 3 options for this, 2 and 3 options for that. It's all about being ready when you're supposed to be ready, and having options available, not only for your actor, but the director may have a last minute idea, and you go, okay, well, I have those 3 wigs over there, we can go this route with it, or we can go that route. They love that. And I love it too, because I always want to be prepared for what's always.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So you've shared so much, and it's like, and I so appreciate, hearing, what's actually involved, because a lot of people don't really understand. And I actually had a client that was in my chair around, with the Oscars in particular. It's like I always love watching, or maybe it's the Golden Globes. One of those, it's like I love watching, the makeup. I don't know if they have hair and makeup together or not, but I was making some kind of comment, and, the client in the chair was just like, I don't know why you're, worried about an Oscar for hair, or makeup. And it was just like, okay, wrong answer right there.
Right. And what's funny about that? It's that right there. It's crazy, because even I go back to starting in my career, I never thought that was a part of what we could do. I never thought that we got awards for what we did. Right. So to have that be a part of the canvas that Hollywood presents us was such a big thing for me. I remember winning my first Emmy, and I remember going by myself. I didn't know what I was getting involved in. I just remember, okay, I'm going. And I remember leaving there, and I remember looking at my Emmy in the car on the seat next to me, strapped in, like with the seatbelt. And I remember just crying, because I never knew that was a possibility in my career, ever. And it was a big moment, but I went alone because I just had nobody to go with. And I thought, wow, we get recognized for what we do. And that wasn't my reason for getting into it. My reason for getting into it is because I wanted to be a part of what I was seeing being done. And I wanted to style hair in Hollywood, and I wanted to do movies and television and editorials and fashion shows, and all of that. But I never knew we got rewarded that way. So I'm grateful for everything that has come my way, and it's not something I asked for, but I'm grateful for it because it's a part of what we do.
Yeah. It's fabulous, and definitely congratulations on your Emmys, and 2 Emmys. I don't think I've
Thank you.
met with or spoken with an Emmy award winning hairstylist. So I love it.
Thank you so much. And even the last one that I won, I did not, you know, you never know. You never
Right.
know. You get nominated and you get there and you sit there and you see everybody. And for me, when I go to those shows, it's like a big reunion for me because I see all of the friends that I've made in Hollywood, my other hair and makeup friends. So it's like a big reunion for us because we work so much. We don't get to see each other a lot through the year. We
Right.
don't get to see each other a lot. So when we get together at award shows or meetings, or not meetings, but receptions and things like that, it's a big
Yeah.
reunion. It's not about winning or losing. It's about the fellowship and it's about the love that we have for each other and the support that we have for each other. So even going this year, um, next month, I'm looking forward to just seeing my friends there at the show because we never get to see each other. So I'm
Okay.
grateful for the nomination because I never saw this nomination that I have now. I never saw that coming because of the type of
Okay.
show it
What's
is.
it for?
It's for a show called Mayor of Easttown, which is an HBO
Okay.
show with Kate Winslet, and it's a show about a detective in Pennsylvania, a little small town in Pennsylvania, and it's a murder mystery. And it's the type of show where everybody looks like they have bed hair. Like
Okay.
everybody's working class. They get up and they go to work and they just put their hair back in a ponytail and the color may be growing out. And it was that kind of a show, which you would think is an easy show to do, but it's not.
Right.
It's not easy to make people look like average everyday people because when you have a costume and they're in gray flannel or a flannel shirt and she was the type of cop that prior to us meeting her, she loses her son. So she goes through this period where I don't even care how I look. So having those type of characters, creating those type of characters are not easy because it's bed hair, but yet it's their real life. They look a certain way. You, as a hairstylist, want to beautify them. So my mind is saying, okay, she has to have bed hair. My right hand is messing it up, but my left hand is fixing it up.
Okay.
So there's that fine line of knowing when to just step away. So it's that type of show where everybody's working class and there's nothing glamorous about it. But it received the nomination because it looked so authentic.
Mm-hmm.
It looks so authentic. And Jean Smart is the mother in this particular series, and I work with her on Watchmen, where her characters are so much more glamorous than the character she plays in Mayor of Easttown. And she literally is a grandmother who looks like she's always laying on her hair. Like literally, it was that kind of hair. But there was a fine line between it looking crazy and it looking authentic. And that's the struggle that I had on that show. And not only that, it was my first job back during COVID. So it was in Philadelphia. And a major part of it was, being in all this protective gear, the mask, the shield. We had to wear the smocks. And I was literally drained by the end of the day because of all of that. The logistics of moving around and being safe and thinking, am I being exposed to something? But HBO was so amazing that they took care of us. We were tested, we were separated in different groups, and we got the show done. But it was a show that wasn't glamorous, but it was nominated for the authenticity of the way the characters looked.
Right. Wow. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
And that's
Thank you so much. That's for an Emmy from yes, and it's next month. Yeah.
Yay.
So
we will be cheering you on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've definitely always marveled at hairstylists who do, session work and, like for ads and that type of thing where people do have to look very every day because
and they're
like, okay, do this and get this, and make this.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely
and
right.
They're actual characters. Because if you look at it, when you look at this poster or if you look at these people in this particular series, they all look like they're from the same place, which is a small town in Pennsylvania, which has a certain look. So you can look at them, oh, she's from there, they're from there. Right. When you put them all together, although they look different, they all look the same.
Okay.
It's a formula of costumes, hair, and makeup. You can tell they're from this little town because of it. So yeah, it's that kind of thing that you have to, that becomes a struggle in those kind of shows. When you look at it, it's so authentic. Like am I really watching a show, or are these real people?
Right.
And that's what you want. That's definitely what you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you mentioned, like the tie-in together between the costumes and and the hair and the makeup and like with respect with the music and the story. And we were mentioning going to New York and seeing, the designer, the costumer and all of the things there. How does that piece inform, you said you kind of went back and started working on the wigs from there. So how does seeing the fashion, seeing, all of these different layers, how does that affect you as the hair,
it
hair
actually
director?
validates everything for me, because what I've had prepared was prepared, but when I saw the costumes, it actually was like, okay, that goes with that, that goes with that, that goes with that. So the costumes assigned the wigs, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Once I saw how glamorous that was, I knew that wig would be the most dramatic and would fit best with that gown. Or, there's that thing that everything's prepared, but let's pair it up and match it together. So it's that kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah. So when I did see and did a whole listing of Aretha's wigs and her performances, I knew that I had to have certain wigs ready for performances, but did not really know what gown was going to go with those wigs until I saw the costume designer's approach to it.
Okay. So you had several like options.
Yes, several options.
Tell us the time frame for the taping of the movie, because I know it was done a while ago.
Yeah, we taped it from late October of 2019 to February 2019 to February of 2020. We finished right before the pandemic. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we were fortunate in that. Literally weeks before. I remember being in New York on February the 14th, which was my birthday, and we finished the day after, and the pandemic literally started the month after.
Right, yeah. I was in New York on the I guess it was the 7th or the 8th when everything shut down to getting ready to teach at the IBS show, and it was just complete insanity. So I'm glad you guys finished.
Yeah, I am too. And even with that, it had to sit on the shelf because it was supposed to come out last December. Right. So even with that, it sat on the shelf because they wanted, MGM definitely was adamant about putting it in theaters. Right.
Yeah, it's like, well, so we're so looking forward to actually seeing it in the theater, and I'm a little nervous going to the theater. This is my first trip, but I was like, I gotta see it. So.
During the premiere, it was my first time seeing it on the big screen. But what was really good for me, and I never got a chance to do this on any other project, MGM was kind enough to send it to me last summer so that I could edit. Never get a chance to edit on any project. So MGM was kind enough to send it to me, and I took 4 hours to edit basically everything that I saw with my third eye. So when I did see it on the big screen, it was just interesting to see my work on the screen that big and knowing that I got a chance to edit and go through it. So I was happy about that because that's very, very rare.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what was it like seeing it? Because, like you say, you don't tape in order. And so you see this thing, you see. And you may not
it was magical. It was magical because you saw the pieces of this puzzle come together. Mm-hmm. And not only was it together, but it was larger than life.
Right.
It was larger than life because it's the big screen. So when you see it, it just takes you away. It takes you away. Because when I did edit, I edited without music and all that stuff. They hadn't added the music in there, but I could see what I was editing. So the music itself just made the story just fall together. Everything just fell together once it was all done. But seeing it on the big screen just took me away. It totally took me away, and it had me in tears. Not only because I was seeing it, but you were hearing the music and you knew the story and putting it together. It's one thing to read the script; you definitely read that in order. but one thing to film it, you don't film it in order, but then to see it all gathered and put back in order with the music, the lighting, the costumes, the hair, the makeup, even the cars and the buildings. You could take a building. There are buildings all around us that have been here for hundreds of years. If you put the car in front of it from the 1950s and the person dressed in the 1950s, that building comes alive. So just seeing all of that, and those buildings are still here, but just seeing all of that happen, it was very surreal.
Wow.
Very, very surreal. Yeah. So just having the puzzle just connect and be a solid picture was magical.
Yeah. And what about the premiere itself? What were your thoughts of that whole experience? Waiting so long for it, and
yeah, the premiere itself was like a big reunion because we hadn't seen each other in forever since some of us since we finished filming. So it was a big reunion in itself, and it was so magical because we all worked really hard. Every department worked really hard, from lighting to camera to hair to makeup, electric, everybody. And seeing everybody come to the premiere who was there was major, like, reunion for us. So we were all glad to see each other. But then seeing the final product put together, Miss Franklin's family was there. It just was a great gathering, and there was a beautiful choir there that sang. After the movie and before the movie, they had a choir perform. Wow. So it was just a great gathering and a great fellowship. It was a great evening, definitely. I will never forget it.
Wow. It just is kind of breathtaking to hear. And so obviously it's like, I can't wait to see it. And I know there's, millions of others across the country who've just been waiting. And it's like, I'm actually from Detroit. And it's like,
wonderful.
Love the whole Motown sound and everything. And I know Aretha wasn't with Motown. Yeah. She was kind of in that whole category of,
absolutely.
of the music, the background music of our life,
Right.
And so
the movie gets into her, her studio work and the band and all that stuff, and how things just came together after her taking an initiative to just jump out on her own. Because at first, early in her career, her father literally, had this going on and that going on and lining things up for her, but it really wasn't her expressing herself. Okay. So once she went out on her own and started expressing herself, it just became this whole phenomenal thing that, she was performing the countries and all this stuff. So it's magic to see how her career just grew and how she became her own voice. All of that.
Yeah.
Just a lesson learned. It was definitely an educating thing.
Right. Yeah, I definitely can't wait to see, all of the details and everything of it. Did you actually get to meet her at all?
Miss Franklin?
Uh-huh.
I actually did not meet her.
Okay.
I did not meet her before she passed. I've been in settings where she was, but I had not met her.
Okay. Yeah, it's like for some reason it comes to mind. It's like there was a some type of show that was going on, and I think it was Luciano Pavarotti who was not able to perform, and they asked her, and she performed in Italian at the last minute, and everybody was just like, "Whoa!" But she was such a professional, and she literally, I've seen some different clips, in the not too distant, past.
Yeah,
and it's like she just owned the stage, and so
I totally remember that. Yeah, I remember that. She got a standing ovation for that. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, like I didn't know," But it's like when you're a professional, it's like you say, it's like you have to be prepared for the unexpected, and
exactly, you make it happen. And
right.
She was definitely that person. Not only was she a singer, but she was a musician herself. So
exactly.
She was able to pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Right. And very well.
Very,
and look good
very well.
It, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you'd like to share with anybody? I mean, aside from everything you've shared, who may be interested in getting into film and television, because we're hoping there's more opportunities in general. And I know, so many.
I would say, don't be afraid to get uncomfortable, because you're going to have to be in an uncomfortable position in order to move to the next level. I think that my fear at the time was, leaving my family on the East Coast and going out here. But the voice that kept resonating to me said, "You got to go." And if you hear that voice, and if you have that feeling, go surround yourself by it, because when you surround yourself by it, you become a part of it. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, from Chesapeake, Idaho, how do I do this?" I'm going to go. You got to leave Chesapeake, Idaho.
Okay.
And you got to go. You got to go where it is. You got to surround yourself by it, and that way you become a part of it. That's the bottom line, and that's what I had to put in my ear, and that's what I had to live by. Even when it was uncomfortable, I had to stay in it, and I could not give up. I could not give up. Yeah.
Right. Well, we're
And
so
don't
glad.
be afraid to ask questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't know something or somebody, ask who they are. If they can help you in any kind of way, reach out to them. Don't be afraid of no. No means yes to me, because if you tell me no, I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to keep on going. So don't be afraid to be in an uncomfortable position so that you can move forward.
Wow. I think that is a perfect way for us to wrap this up, because that just sums it all up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for your time and just being so willing to share with us,
Thank you for reaching out, and thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate this.
Yeah, it's like you're definitely a Black beauty boss. So we wish you much success, as you continue, your career, because it feels like you're kind of just getting started. It's like there's so much more that
there's definitely more.
Yeah,
there's definitely more, and I'm grateful for every moment of it.
Yeah. So, is there a what's next for you that you are planning?
From here, I go to New Orleans to do a true crime series. Based on, listen to this, it's based on Dateline, the news show, murder mystery, and it's called That Thing About Pam, which is about a woman named Pam in Missouri, or was it Arkansas? I think it was Missouri. She got away with murder almost twice, and it became this huge podcast for Dateline when they were telling this story. But now Renee Zellweger is turning it into a 6-episode series.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I'm doing when I leave here. I'm going to New Orleans to do that series with Renee Zellweger.
Okay, very cool. Well, we definitely wish you much success with that, and have some good food for us, okay?
Oh, I will, definitely. I love it there.
Yeah, best food.
Yes, it is. I got to be careful. I got to definitely be careful with the food.
Okay. So is there a way for people to follow you or keep in touch, or?
Yeah, I would love for people to follow me at Hair by Lawrence Davis on Instagram. That's where I am, and that's where I post, and I get a lot of information from other people as well, and a lot of people reach out. But please feel free to reach out. Hair by Lawrence on Instagram. Hair by Lawrence Davis on Instagram.
Okay. All right, and now I'm gonna hopefully get this to scroll across there. It is not scrolling. Oh, okay, there it is. Okay, I didn't hit the right button. Yeah, so definitely follow. And you've been posting some fabulous, shots of all your work. It's like we didn't get to talk about Ali and the Green Book and all of that, but we will have to try to do this again.
Yeah, we can definitely do this again. I have a few weeks off, so we can definitely do something else. I would love to.
Yeah, it's like the work you've done is phenomenal.
I'll be able to get on early.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's like we definitely appreciate it, and thank you everybody who's tuning in. We appreciate it. It's like if you are watching on YouTube, it's like definitely be sure to subscribe. It's like we do this pretty much every week, and we've done more than 60 now. So if you've missed any of them too, definitely follow us on beautysuperstars.com/podcast. You can be able to watch any of the previous ones, and you can sign up to make sure that you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes as well. And again, I want to thank our sponsor, Black Beauty Expo, and you can follow them on blackbeautyexpo.com as well as on Instagram with Black Beauty Expo. And for some of you guys, you may be having challenges with raising your prices. It's like you get a little anxious and you're going to lose all your clients. So I'm actually doing a webinar for you that is called Level Up and Charge What You're Worth. It's going to be on August 23rd. It's an absolutely free webinar, and we'll walk you through how to stop charging your JCPenney prices and doing that Nordstrom work. So we want to make everything nice. So definitely visit beautysuperstars.com/level up. And again, it's beautysuperstars with an S on the end.com/level up, and get signed up for the next webinar. And I will help you to raise those prices without losing your clients. So we again appreciate you, Lawrence. Thank you so much for just,
Thank you for having me.
Your confidence, your aura, I guess you could almost say. Your energy is wonderful. So thank you
for having me, Vicki. I so appreciate you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's like, this has been great. And just want to invite everybody to come back and see us again, because we will have more to come, and we may even do something with a live stream with this, or something where we can have a conversation about this after people have had a chance to see the movie. So yeah. So definitely we will be excited about this for a very long time, and definitely loving the hair. So thank you so much for bringing that magic to the big screen, because, you know, without the hairstylist, without the hair and everything coordinating, it's like the show isn't believable. The movie's not believable. So we appreciate it. Yeah. Yes. So everyone, take great care. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Keep reaching for